Today's Spotlight is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, Busey Bank. Busey, your dream, our promise. You're watching Spotlight, and today I'm joined by Janice Borla and Jack Mouse of Flashpoint Creative Arts. So welcome to the set.
Hello.
We are excited to learn about this new organization, so I'm going to just start a little bit with both of you, really, and tell me a little bit about how you got involved in this.
Well, I think it comes from our experience in music and education. First of all, I'll mention that Jack and I have been together for
35 years.
And have been in Naperville since 1986. I've been a professional jazz vocalist for about 44 years, have recorded several albums under my own name, but I've also been involved in jazz education for about 32 years, most of which was the last 22 years have been at North Central College. My pride and joy is that I founded and present a vocal jazz camp, Janice Borla Vocal Jazz Camp, and the Hot Jazz 6 Cool Nights concert series for 26 years. That was sort of an institution in Naperville here until the last few years. And it was an extraordinary undertaking, very ambitious, but it was the first of its kind, and work that I'm very proud of. And I think that it is, we decided finally to put it aside, but we're yearning to do something more with our bliss, and so we're moving forward with Flashpoint.
I started playing drums at the age of 4, and by the time I was 10, I was working professionally.
Okay.
So we both maintain relatively active professional careers yet. I am the coordinator of jazz studies at North Central College, and more importantly, the drum set instructor. That's always more important than all the administrative.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah, and we've been there for 22 years now, and we didn't think we'd be anywhere for 22 years. But in addition to that, we are the owners and proprietors of Tallgrass Productions, which is Tallgrass Recording Studios, Tallgrass Records, Tallgrass Publications, and Tallgrass Artists. So that keeps us off the streets.
Okay, well that's good to know. And when you're not on the streets, tell me about the mission of Flashpoint.
Well, Flashpoint Creative Arts was an organization that we created to promote improvisation and the value of improvisation, not only in music and the arts, but in everyday life. And it comes from the fact that both Jack and I recognize the immense impact that improvisation has had in our own lives and of our students. We watch as they get more self-assured, as they are building skills like thinking on their feet, problem solving in the moment, listening to one another more closely, collaborating, and ultimately experimenting, and ultimately getting over the fear of failure. It holds so many of us back because they realize that in jazz there's no one way or right way to play something, and so they're able to take risks and be confident. And so we were looking for a way to take that further from, in other words, taking that out of the context of jazz specifically and moving it into a wider community of people. The word flashpoint actually is what is associated with combustion, the point at which something or somebody moves into or springs into or into action or being. And so we would like Flashpoint to literally be the spark that ignites creativity, to enable people to reconnect with their intuitive selves and to reduce or to eliminate the obstacles that stop the flow of spontaneous creativity.
Interesting. And I like the way you talk about, because it's obviously that I love jazz and it's the heart and soul of jazz, but you're really trying to take that beyond. And Jack, say a little bit more about the importance of that.
Well, improvisation is really instantaneous creativity, problem solving. We have been involved in this for so many years that to us it comes more naturally. Improvisation is something everyone does all of the time.
Sure.
When you have a discussion, you're improvising. Young children at play are the best improvisers. They haven't learned they haven't got all that crust on them yet that we pile on them.
It's not so structured, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We have had a tendency to not nourish that lately.
Okay.
We hear that from CEOs in business saying, where are all the creative people? So improvisation is something, again, that we do all of the time. When we use the term improvisation, it can be intimidating. When we use the term improvisation, it implies performance, which is a judgment call, and so we're trying to eliminate that kind of connotation to that word.
Okay. Now, is there a particular group that you're trying to reach with your organization?
I'm going to let Jack field that one.
Okay.
That's multi-layered. There are lots of groups. We've been involved with some of the special needs groups in Naperville, like Little Friends, which is incredibly gratifying work, and Janice will tell you a little bit more about that. We're also concerned about, it's no secret that teenage suicide, teenage substance abuse, teenage psychological problems are through the roof. We, for years, meet gifted young people who are just a little bit left of center, who are shunned, who are mocked, are called geeks. We'd like to create events to say, and we're losing people. We're losing some very talented people, because if you say that to a person enough times, they start believing it, and they start looking for the darker alternatives. We think we can save some lives by creating situations where they meet some of us older geeks that are possibly more successful, and they can say, wow, okay, I'm not alone.
Okay.
And they can introduce them to other folks just like that.
So now I know you said Little Friends, you referenced that. Janice, you want to say a little quick bit more on that?
Yes, we just recently began a pilot program, actually, with Little Friends that's made possible by the Rotary Foundation. And, sorry, Alma Jones of Rotary, came up with an idea about jazz as therapy, and we kind of brainstormed about it, and we ended up starting a program by which we invited 60 students and staff from Little Friends over for a rehearsal of Jack's student combo. Well, halfway through that, he said, well, I'd like to bring Janice up to address vocal jazz. Well, I was just intending to deal with the group at large, but and we did some back and forth. I sang them some ideas, and they sang them back to me and all that. And all of a sudden, I heard myself asking for volunteers. And I know everybody was like, oh, my God, no. And instead, one young man came up and sang with me, 2 choruses. Okay. He exchanged improvisation with me, and then all the hands went up. And so we had a bunch of those students come up, and each of them sang with me, improvised with me, hugged me at the end. It was mind-blowing, totally awesome and totally unexpected. And so we're very inspired by the experience, and plans are now underway to make it a sustainable program that we're going to be doing with them in the fall. And we're looking forward to presenting in the fall of 2018. We're going to present our first group of autistic students in concert at Wentz with the jazz faculty at NCC.
That is fantastic. Well, I thank you so much for what you're doing. I mean, it's such an exciting and interesting concept, and I love the fact that you're not only taking what you've done professionally with the college and now bringing that out into the community to a group of people that certainly really need that. So I look forward to hearing more about it. Thank you. If you would like to find out more about how Flashpoint Creative Arts is working to be the spark that ignites creativity, imagination, and innovation, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us. We'll be right back with more Spotlight.